Good evening. Um, so to kind of add on to the earlier video, and something I've said many times in a lot of my videos is about how people are mirrors and how you like and dislike things in others that you like and dislike in yourself. Um, a lot of you know I'm at a faith-based sober house, and for the entire month of December, every night they've been doing a reading out of the Book of Luke. Um, Tonight was chapter 20. And in it, there's an exchange between, I don't remember the people, but essentially people questioning um, Jesus's credibility and authority. Um, and they pose a particular question to him, which is essentially a trap. And he knows it. And he comes back with a question towards them, which essentially, in the same gist, um, there's no real way they can answer it without discrediting themselves. And the person who did this reading tonight kind of pointed this out, how a lot of people would think, at face value, it's Jesus was essentially being coy. um, and it goes on a little more, and it talks about how he presents a particular parable which essentially reinforces and reiterates the original point he was making. And the person who was doing the reading, very astutely and very correctly pointed out how he essentially took their own logic and turned it back on them, you know, and that there really wasn't anything they could do. And the end result of this was they eventually stopped trying to discredit him because they knew they weren't going to get anywhere. I think you can get another lesson out of there that goes a little deeper. And that's, why were they trying to discredit and disprove him to begin with? Well, it's because he represented and posed a threat not only to the established quo, but essentially to their credibility and their authenticity and their authority and all of these other things. Um, because they were, in pretty modern layman terms, they were living out of their ego. Most of the religious authorities at the time, there was a lot of strict laws about interpreting scripture and all this other stuff and blah, 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 blah. And it was to give themselves a position of power and privilege and whatnot. It talked a little bit about that as well. I say let's go one lesson deeper. I say that you know part of the reason these people were trying to discredit wasn't just because they wanted to save face and to disprove that this person wasn't whatever, to get rid of the threat. But why were they threatened to begin with? Well, it's because deep down there's a part of them that knows their own position of power and privilege was built on a false foundation and was a function of ego, and their own authority and credibility wasn't really authentic. So, of course, they naturally project that on anyone who rises to challenge that. We didn't do it for necessarily pure reasons, so therefore you there's no way you could be doing it for pure reasons either. And we're going to prove it. Because the one thing that Jesus did throughout all of the stories was this beautiful act of cutting right to the heart and soul of the problem. Love it, actually. Cuts through all the chatter, all the bullshit. And more often than not, what does he do? He acts as a mirror. And he reflects back to people exactly what they're putting out or what they're challenging against him. He shows them themselves. He shows them their own faults and fallacies. Not to harm or discredit, but to show them where they can grow. Because even in doing that, he always provides a seed and he always provides a path for them to overcome and grow past that and to heal, which is the whole point. So it was interesting. Just thought I'd add that food for thought.